The offering, $200 million deal, $1.8 billion valuation. They won't get all of that because they got to pay the bankers. Selling a bunch of shares, total deal lands around $200 million. Net proceeds to the company are about $142 million, or $166 million if the green shoes exercise. 64 million shares will be outstanding after the deal. We'll put the basic market cap near 1.6 fully diluted. With options and RSUs loaded in, you get to that 1.8. Like I said, NASDAQ, ticker LIME. They have 1,148 employees, and then a ton of contingent contractor workers that help make this go. And Goldman is the lead left. Let's talk about the turnaround. Before any of these numbers were relatively good, they were absolutely catastrophic. So when COVID hit, LIME was deleted. Revenue dropped roughly 95% in a matter of days because the entire product is people leaving their house, and overnight, nobody was leaving their house. So the company had walked into 2020 already knowing it needed to raise. Before COVID hit, they were like, okay, we're planning on a fundraise this year. Then the 6 months of runway that it had turned into literally 20 days. That's what Wayne said on a podcast. This was very much an emergency. And the life support check came from Uber. Dara wrote an $85 million lifeline in early 2020 and elevated Wayne from head of strategy and ops to CEO in the process. That's when he became the CEO, taking over for the original founder. The grim part, and the part that ended up really helping Lime, is what happened to everybody else. The venture money fled the entire category. So micromobility became a scarlet letter and capital dried up. The competition who had been matching Lime dollar for dollar in the land grab, they ran out of road, no pun intended, and a bunch of them died. So Lime survived the famine by vertically integrating its hardware, software, and revamping its warehouse operations, while competitors like Bird literally filed for Chapter 11. Bruce Wayne, we call him Bruce Wayne, he's like Batman of scooters. He took the top job, came into the wreckage, and looked under the hood, and what he found was pretty gross. So the company was losing about $3 for every $1 of revenue. The daily decay rate, that's the rate at which you got to replace the scooters. The daily decay rate on the fleet was 3%, which means you are effectively buying an entirely new fleet every 30 days, which is not great if you're in the scooter business. And almost nobody inside the building could see it because there was zero data ingrained in their culture. So in that interview that Wayne did with Harry Stebbings on 20-Minute VC, he said some employees actually thought the company was printing money, not knowing they were incinerating capital at a very alarming rate. So it required the company to get really tactical. Wayne sat on the warehouse floors. You just sit there for hours and hours on end. You'd answer emails and just watch people, observing how different GMs organized and measured their employees. And so these are the three numbers that he locked in on. He forced the company to live by them. They were trips per vehicle per day, revenue per vehicle per day, and riders per day. And none of these are complicated to calculate. They're all just numerator, denominator. They're not compound metrics. And the problem, though, was no one had been tracking them or calculating them all. So you couldn't tell if a city was working on paper or not, or if it was bleeding cash. They also started measuring decay annually instead of daily, since a 3% daily rate just panicked everybody. Well, the annual version was something that you could actually plan against. And the bigger thing here was the warehouse operation. So he decided the whole business came down to three things: the quality of the GM running the warehouse, whether you could see what was happening inside it, and whether anyone was actually on the hook for the result, like fixing these scooters. So they built the visibility into the software. How many scooters did you fix today? And then the one that actually mattered, how long until it broke again, right? So a mechanic who fixes a scooter in 20 minutes looks like a star until the same scooter is back in the shop a week later. You can't have that. Tracking time to fix and time to next break is how you find the mechanics who are good and the ones who are pretty terrible and actually bring the operation down. So now they had a scoreboard, and anybody not fixing the scooters or anybody who was fixing them badly had nowhere to hide, right? You can see all this in the numbers. Operating losses of $25 million in 2023 became $47 million of operating income in 2024 and $70 million of income in 2025. So the company that used to buy a new fleet every month now gets 5 years out of a scooter. But none of that operational work touched the balance sheet. Remember, the debt Lime took on to survive 2020 is still sitting there. It's due in 2026, which is why the company that earns money on its operations now still ends the year with a net loss. I got news for you. The ERP category is finally getting disrupted. And if you haven't heard of Rillet yet, please pay attention. It's the AI native ERP built specifically to replace NetSuite, and it's already won over hundreds of finance teams. Their mission is to make the zero-day close a reality, and they're actually doing it. We're talking teams closing the books at 1:35 p.m. on the first day of the month. Companies like Windsurf, Mercor, and hundreds of others run their entire finance stack on Rillet. Revenue recognition, close management, multi-entity, native Stripe and Salesforce integrations. Woo! Everything a scaling company needs. They've got 5.0 star, 50, wow, 50 stars on G2. They're backed by A16Z and Sequoia, heard of them, and CPA-led implementations that get you live in 45 days. That is simply unheard of in the ERP space. If your books aren't running as fast as your business, check out Rillet. Book a demo at rillet.com/CJ. That is RILLET.com/CJ. That's me.